All right, so you just purchased one of my prefabs or monuments. Once you do that, it's going to download a zip file from either your email confirmation or on my website under your order history. Once you have the zip file, you can go ahead and double click it to open it up. I use WinRAR to unzip things. You can use 7-zip. You can use whatever unzipping program you have. It's going to have a file in here that is unzipped. You'll go ahead and drag that to your desktop. And you can delete the WinRAR or zip file that it downloaded to. So that way we just have this file right here. Within my Project Rise monument, I'm using this one as an example. This tutorial is going to cover how to install any of my monuments pretty much and incorporate it with your procedural generated map or your own custom map, depending on the terrain situation. So within the zip file that you've unzipped, it is going to look something very similar to this. You're going to have my terms of service, probably your README, some screenshots for your own use, the prefab files, and then possibly an example map with the monument. This is just an empty map, 1K size, with only my monument on it, if you wanted to test it, play around, whatever you wanted to do. What we're going to look for is the prefab files. So these are the prefab files that you will need in order to incorporate this with your current map. If you haven't already, you're going to need to download a program called Rust Edit. I will leave a link down below where you can get that. Once you have it downloaded, you're going to go ahead and open up its install directory, which in my case is on my C drive, Program Files 86, Rust Edit, and we're going to navigate to a folder called Custom Prefabs. So in here, it's going to have probably nothing if you haven't used Rust Edit before, but I have several custom prefabs in here that you can, as you can tell, what we're going to do is drag these two files, which I already have in mind, so it's going to say I'm overriding them, into my custom prefab location. Okay, now they are located in my custom prefab folder in my Rust Edit install directory. So now you don't need this file anymore. You can just move it up. I do suggest keeping it, but we're not going to use it for the remaining of the video. So we're going to go ahead and launch Rust Edit. This is the program that you will use to edit maps, create things, or just incorporate my monuments with your maps. You're going to go ahead and tap on play. You can check for updates if you want to. Make sure it's up to date. Fix any bugs and everything. Click play. So once your Rust Edit is open, it will look something just like this, except it probably won't have the pro version up in the top left. So what we're going to do is go ahead and open up a procedural generated map that, let's say, your server is using. We're going to go ahead and click load map, and it says no file selected. We're going to go ahead and select one. This is where we're going to go to navigate to our Rust install directory. So where Rust is installed on your machine, typically it's in Program Files 86, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, and then Rust. And then you're going to look for a file called maps. This is where all the maps that you've ever joined will be listed in here. So for this instance, I joined 2 procedural maps that were 4K in size. It might be a different seed, it might be a different size, but you'll just tap on whatever procedural map that you want, load it up on your server, join it, and then it will download that .map file here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this 4K map. We're going to click load. All right, so once it has launched your procedural map, it should look something just like this, just with your map in it. Now for this instance, I'm showing you how to replace my newest Project Rise monument with something in your current map. What I like to use are the supermarkets or the gas stations that are at the end of the streets, typically, because they already have a flat terrain, which is what we're going to need for my monument. So for this instance, we're going to try using this area over here where supermarket is. So you go ahead and tap on supermarket itself, and then just click delete. Might take a second, but once it's deleted, it's gone. We can go ahead and remove the bus stop as well. As you can tell, it has a little bit of splat here on the ground. If you want, you can open up the terrain painter tool. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with alpha. That's how you patch up this little hole right here. We're going to go to eraser. So there we go. Now we don't have that hole there. Then we're going to go back to splat. And we'll just put dirt down for now. You can do whatever you want. We'll just paint this area to have dirt. Okay, so once the area looks something like this, nice and flat, you'll go ahead and go to your prefab list, and you can either click the custom tab right here to load up all your custom prefabs. Yours will probably just have mine if you're watching this video, but you can go ahead and search Project Rise, and it might pop up a few things because some things are named projectile, but mine's towards the bottom. So you go ahead and tap on it, give it just a moment to load up. Okay, once you see that the preview image has loaded up, you can go ahead and double click it, and looking in the direction you generally want your monument in, you just click it twice, wait a second for it to load up. All right, so the monument has loaded up. It's trying to catch up. There we go. So my monument pastes a little weird, just because the size that it is. So we're going to go ahead and adjust it a little bit, and then drag it somewhere where you like it. We'll say right here, for instance. Now it just happened that I pasted this and it literally matched up with the terrain perfectly. But if it didn't, and it's a little bit above the terrain like this, I added a red marker at the level that my monument needs to be with the terrain. So as soon as this red piece goes under the ground, that's whenever you know it's at the perfect height for it. Perfect. So now the monument is exactly where I want it, has a road leading to it, and it just replaced the spot of the supermarket. Now, one thing to take to note is when adding this to your map is dependent on the terrain nearby. So right now, if I were to load this up on a server, people would fall through the ground right here since there is a terrain trigger built into my monument, which is needed. So to fix that, we can go ahead and pull up the terrain tool, and there's a raise lower brush. You can go ahead and turn down the opacity because you don't want it, because if you leave it up really high, it'll leave really steep hills. So we're going to go ahead and turn that down. We'll put it at like 3 or 4. You can go around and adjust the terrain manually like this. And it'll look a little goofy at first, but we can go back and smoothen it. So I'm just going to go ahead and make some adjustments to the terrain. I'm going to fast forward this part. So this part will take a few minutes to do, but it's not that difficult. It's just a little time consuming. Okay. So seem to be good to go. We have my monument added to our procedural generated map. That is pretty much how you do it. Now it's fully functional. You don't have to break the prefab, which there's a red break button down here. I suggest leaving it prefabbed if possible for map security reasons, but if you need to, you can click break there. One other thing I do suggest clicking is the apply alpha mask. What that does is inside my monument, if there's any areas that need to have a hole made, you can click on apply alpha mask to open this up. Generally, it doesn't paste on perfectly, so you might have to use a little bit of brush tool. But go ahead and click on alpha mask. See what I mean? It didn't do it quite perfect, so all you do to fix that is go to Terrain Painter, Alpha, make the brush size 1, and then you just click on the terrain spots that poke through. Very easy fix. And now players are able to enter in the door without going into the terrain. And that is how you add my Project Rise and or any other monument that I have to your existing map. Give or take a couple of the tweaks that I had to do. You might not even have to adjust the road like I did. It just depends on the terrain where you're adding my monument at. Because this one was more flat based. So a lot of it's right underneath the terrain. So you need to adjust quite a bit for that. But there it is.